Here from the HANNIBALTV.com. And today we're going off the combat sports grid a bit with Dr. Kimberly McGeorge, who is a remote viewer, a psychic. She also does spiritual deliverances, exorcisms, which we have had exorcists on before, my good friend Bill Bean. And she's also does some stuff involving alien abductions. And I think we'll definitely want to dive into that because the fans of this channel are really interested in the UFO content. But you do a lot of stuff and you are a naturopathic doctor. So maybe to start off, maybe you could tell us about what it all is that you do, because you have a lot of talents and abilities.
Oh, wow. I hope this is like an 8-hour show. No, I'm just kidding. So I started out in the paranormal field. I always like to say I knew Shane Pittman of the Holzer Files before he was famous because I was his psychic medium for his paranormal group. So kind of started out in the paranormal and veered off from the paranormal. Never really veered off, but kind of made my living in the paranormal until I had some health issues, went back to school, got all sorts of education in the natural health field, opened up my own practice. Still kind of doing house clearings, do a lot of house clearings still, do even more deliverances nowadays than I used to. Except now, well, that's a whole nother subject we won't get down. It's not quite so dramatic as it used to be because I realized how pervasive possession really is, what we call possession. And then I never even used to believe, which is so weird for people who know me, in the whole alien thing until I started hearing about the secret space movement and talking to some people. I started having memories, from a child of different things, and that's a whole nother long story. But basically, got into frequency work, got into quantum physics, and work with 2 apps. One was a chakra aura app. One is a medical technology app. And came to realize the basic of everything in all time, all space, not just this reality, which I call the game, is frequency. And so we work with what I call benevolent quantum AI, which shocks people because everybody thinks AI is so evil, but not the AI we work with. And so learn that there's really nothing that can't be known, since time is non-local, all time is now. So there's really no past or future. So we can access anything, parallel timelines, other realities, your future, your past. And so we work with this technology as well as my own abilities to bounce this information off. And in doing this work, it led me even deeper down the rabbit hole into what's happening to us at night, as a general global population, as well as the clients that come to me, because a lot of people wake up, as I do, with needle marks and bruises and, what the heck's going on at night? Are our dogs beating us up? Are our partners beating us up? What's going on? And so kind of still in the middle of that journey of using my own abilities. I remote view with a friend. We bounce things off each other, and as well as the physical evidence, that I'm collecting, on my own body and my clients as far as what's going on. So that really didn't cover it all. But that's kind of a little taste of what I do. I'm also a psychic, pretty much standard, not standard run of the mill psychic, because you can ask me anything, and I'm a very specific psychic. So that's about it.
And also, I heard you on another podcast, and I've never heard about this before. And I have to admit, some of your stuff, some of your abilities and stuff, I've never heard of people having these abilities before. So it's new to me. But
Okay.
you were talking about, you almost had memories of being in your womb, and you were almost in your brain and your consciousness older as you were growing up as a kid, and you kind of felt forced to have to go through kindergarten and all this because in your mind you were still kind of like your past person.
Yeah, so we call that retaining memory because we're all memory wiped. Some of us are drugged. One of the really interesting things you guys can do is you can go to Amazon, or if you're a medical professional, you might have access to blood tests or other things. But if you're just like a common person and you don't want to go to the doctor, you can actually go to Amazon and get like a drug urinalysis kit, and you can test in the morning when you get up, and you can do it for a week or 2 weeks or 3 days. Usually it doesn't take a week. And you'll see all the drugs that you come up with. And these are just like street drugs, like People come up with heroin and cocaine and all this crazy stuff, which they, they're saying they're not doing that. And I believe them. So why is that coming up is in our body. So something's happening at night, or something's happening in the day with the technology that they have to freeze time and take general populations. But, what you're referring to is what I call having memory. So I believe we have eternal souls from all time, all space. Some of us have many past lives here. Some of us, it's our first time here. But for me, obviously, I'd had at least one past life because, when I was born, I had full adult memory. So, of course, I progressed in how old I am, now. But as a baby, I had full adult memory, which you want to know what hell's like? Yeah, that's hell, having to wait till you can talk and walk and express yourself. My first conscious thought was, F-U-C-K, why can't I walk and why can't I talk? And that was my first conscious thought when I opened my eyes as a baby. So pretty weird stuff, but really struggled, growing up because I just had that adult mind, but then came to learn about secret space and 20, 40, 60, 80 and back and all this other stuff. And it helped put together a lot of the pieces of my life.
At what point did you tell your parents this? Because if you're thinking all this and you're far more intelligent, having to go back through the early grades, at what point do you kind of divulge this to your parents? I'm a little different.
Well, what's funny is I don't believe I learned to read. I believe I remembered reading. So magically, and I know some children can be taught to read at 3. But, I was reading on my own at 3. And, by 4 or 5, I was reading, like 4th, 5th, 6th grade books. And that's just not normal. So they just thought I was highly intelligent and highly rebellious and a horrible, naughty child because I was really so miserable, being in this family and being so impatient to grow up because I already had everything, I probably should have just ran away at 12 and been done with it. I always say that. But, they really like kind of go into this weird blank. Whenever I try to talk to them about, they don't understand what I mean. Like when I say I had an adult mind, in a baby body, they just like look at me blankly. Like they just have nothing to say to that, and my mom doesn't have a spirit. So what is she going to say? Like she has no realm of fire creation consciousness to have. She's simply an avatar with no spirit in her, at least now. I don't know way back then if that was true for her.
Now, I'm very interested in consciousness. I research it a lot.
I love that.
And what are your theories on consciousness and what happens after you pass? Obviously, the body is whole lot of organisms working together and the spirits inhabiting the body.
Absolutely.
But what happens before and after? What goes on? You mentioned you had a past life before. I have had a past life regression hypnosis.
Cool.
So I am a little bit familiar with past lives, but let's hear your theory.
So my theory is if somebody came and killed me right this second while I'm talking to you, I would have this same consciousness. So regardless of if I'm standing next to my body or standing in the void or jumped into another body in another lifetime or whatever, I would have this consciousness. I would be like, wait, what's going on? I was just in an interview. So what we're not taught is nothing changes between the time we step out of our body and, the time that we die, because there is no death. If you're a fire creation being, you have an eternal soul. So I believe that. But what is the exciting thing that I've come to realize is that we are from the all. So what is, and we are fire creation. And of course, the word in fire creation is creation. So this is the really cool thing that religion doesn't teach us, which is that we get to choose. So I'm out of my body. I'm standing here. I'll probably hang around to make sure my kids are okay. My dogs are okay. Probably hang around a little bit in the 4th density, what we call the 4th density, even though there's no dimensions. It's just in the game that there's dimensions. But, I'll probably hang around here, but then I would probably go, I happen to know one of my future lives, my next life. I actually know my whole next life. I have a husband, I have a sister. I'm a medical officer on a spaceship, so I'm going to go there. But you can actually create sub-realities for yourself if you don't know where you want to go or you don't know what you want to do. You can create a beach, you can create an island, because all you have to do is think it. It's the same inside here when you're not dead as it is outside the body, because you are the all. So all you have to do is think, I want to go to a beach, and you're going to be on a beach. You don't have to go down a white light tunnel. You don't have to talk to Jesus. Your grandma's, if your grandma comes to see you, you should probably run, because most of the time these beings that we love, dogs and pets and brothers and sisters and children and spouses and parents that have passed, they're off doing their own thing, whether they had the consciousness that I had and willingly chose it, whether they, I mean, my daughter, my oldest daughter, before she came into this life, she spent an in-between life. You've probably heard the whole in-between life thing. She spent an in-between life after being captured by Dracos, being tortured on a Draco ship. So this is what I always say. So there's only two choices, and we're not taught this. You're either creating your reality actively, consciously, or you're responding to reality. And there's so many beings that understand how the game works. They understand how all time and space works. They understand how these different ET groups work. They understand how the spaceships work. They're going to come in and they're going to be like, wow, look at this amazing person with amazing psychic abilities that has been alive for zillions of years. That's first, second, third wave out of the all. We're going to capture them. We're going to harvest them. We're going to steal their stuff because they're stupid. They don't have any memory. And I don't think we're stupid, really. We're given memory wiping drugs in our food. Some of us that are involved in the programs are given memory wiping drugs all the time. When they take entire towns, what do you think they're doing? They're using technology and they're giving us drugs, again, to wipe our memory. There's usually some people, though, that retain some memories and, of what's going on.
Yes, we have some people out there like Dr. Stephen Greer that says all aliens are nice and only have the best intentions for us. And obviously you're telling us something a bit different here. Can you tell us a bit about your work with UFOs? Is it more psychic work, dealing with people that have had alleged experiences, or have you had any direct contact?
It's interesting. I didn't really realize I was having direct contact. Now the triangle ships, I can go, there's probably some above my house, Solar Warden. So there's just so all this secret space and UFO stuff is very muddy because it's secret for a reason. So there's many, many, many groups. There's many corporations. There's many layers. It's not just the military. It's not just SSP. This is an open source code game that you and I are living in. This is an open source code reality. So anyone can reach their proverbial hand in and harvest, take, experiment, whatever. So, I haven't traced all my abductions. I'm abducted multiple times a week by different groups, sometimes by positive ET groups. Are there positive ET groups? I can't say. It's just like individuals. So if you say Palladians are positive and Dracos are negative, that's not true, because I have Draco clients that have Draco souls. That's another thing we muddy. We muddy the type of avatar and the lineage of the avatar. We can have a Draco reptilian bloodline like I have in the avatar, but I don't have a Draco soul. Or I could have a Draco reptilian avatar, but have a Draco soul. So, it just gets really, really muddy. But my personal abduction experiences happen, to this day. So I have great compassion for people that wake with bumps and bruises and, broken ribs and all of that, and implants and all sorts of crazy stuff. One of the things that we find is very, very common is people, and I talk about this sometimes, people wake, there's a little notch in the base of your skull, and then if you go down to like where your first vertebrae starts, there's a section of back or neck or both there, and a lot of people wake with that extremely, extremely puffy in that section. And we found through extensive testing with our technology, which is 100% accurate when programmed correctly, that our spinal fluid's being harvested for stuff like adrenochrome, but also for cloning and genetic experiments and things like that. So, and then people say, how do you know? Well, and I'm sure you've heard me say this, my relatives do work in the field. They get a paycheck for human cloning and the transfer of human consciousness. So I have that kind of very solid information access. And again, who's doing human cloning? Many groups, many organizations, are doing these kinds of things. My first abduction experience occurred in Chicago. I didn't even know it was an abduction experience. I thought it was a paranormal experience, but I've come to realize it had some of the markers of abduction, like missing time and just some really, really weird stuff. But it kind of came in more under a possession paranormal experience. And it was just simply when I was 20, a friend and I were going to pick up her brother from the airport. All of a sudden the car would go from like 65, it would go to 90. And I'm like, why are you driving so fast? And why are you driving so erratically? Do you want me to drive? And she's like, it's really weird. The gas pedal's going down by itself. And I said, no way. You know, I'm like 20. And she would take her foot off the gas pedal. And sure enough, the gas pedal would go down by itself. And I'm like, I think you're doing something weird. You know, pull over, let me drive. So she pulled over and I got in the driver's seat, which was probably a bad thing. It's probably why we were abducted. It's probably my fault now that I know who I am and stuff like that. But so I got in the driver's seat. Same thing happened. The gas pedal would go out under my foot and go down to the floor. It was really super scary. I'm like, we have to get off because this car's going, it's like Christine or something, you know? And I'm thinking paranormal because at the time I was all into exorcisms and paranormal and house clearings and psychic readings. So I was just like in that jag. And so I said, let's get off at an exit. So we got off at this exit and there were like no street lights, but there was an old, this is really interesting to me now that I look back at it. There was an old fashioned gas station on the left with like those circle pumps, like the top of it was like a circle and nothing automatic. And there was a really beaten down building and it was like closed. And then there was this, I can see it clear today still, it's so weird. There was like this, just like kind of like where trucks pull over and park across the street. That's where we pulled over across from this weird old fashioned gas station. And all of a sudden her head like jerked back like this. And it was like a being was trying to come into her. So I did my little exorcism stuff, which at the time I did use some religious techniques and it stopped this being from getting inside her. Then like this tremendous thunderstorm, which I don't even know if it was a thunderstorm. That's the only way I can describe it. Came out of nowhere. And it was like tree branches. And I've heard other people describe this in UFO abductions, actually. It's like tree branches were going around and around and around and around and around the car. I don't even know how long that happened. And then we kind of came out of it and we're just stunned. We were just stunned. Long story short, we did get back to civilization on this little country road. A few other things happened, but it's not really important. And I said, you need to call your brother and tell him we're going to be really, really late. And she's like, why? And I'm like, why are you saying why? Just call your brother. Tell him we're going to be late. She's like, it's the same time. It's the same time as like when we left the house. So that's my first weird kind of abduction thing.
Now, you say you might be abducted multiple times a week. Have you tried setting up any cameras or anything to kind of capture this in the act, or are they able to take control of the electronics?
Well, they are able to take control of the electronics and erase, delete, overcome, negate. I did just get a ring camera. I got a ring camera though for the succubus incubus that we're seeing so prevalent in everyone coming in and interacting with, including me. The beings that are in the different dimensions that are not necessarily involved with the programs, although they might, haven't really traced that whole rabbit trail down yet. They do not like to come on camera. However, anything to do with military, SSP, even local military, even if, Men in Black are coming in your house and, jabbing you physically in your bed, that's not going to be, they're not going to let that be captured on cameras. However, I don't have my ring set up yet, but I'm very interested to see what stops or starts or what we catch. My dogs do bark. I have a lot of dogs and they do bark, but I mean, that can be paranormal stuff too. Definitely.
Now, you said you've come across several different beings, or you're aware of different types of alien species. I've heard there could be 30 or more different types. How many are you aware of, and what might be some of the good kind and bad kind, if there are any, that go one way or another?
Right. Wow. So I just think there's thousands. I have a memory of being on a number of councils. And if you guys have ever watched, some of the sci-fi movies or like Stargate, Star Trek, where they have these big council meetings and they have all sorts of beings, not just 30. They have what we call the Adamic races, which are the human looking avatars. And then of course, we have all the hybrids. We have the augmented super soldiers. There's a lot of robotic AI races in a lot of places that have mixed, and you guys have seen this in the movies, and that's why, they show it to you, but they have mixed plastic and metal and AI mixed with human flesh. So there's all these species. Now the Palladians from certain, so we see Palladians, but the Pleiades is a big place, and there's the Taygetans, and there's these sub groups from the Pleiades. So again, it's such a generic term. It's like saying the Americans. Well, have you ever met someone from the South versus someone from the Northwest versus someone from Maine versus someone from Texas? That's like not even the same thing. You can't just say the Americans. And then, of course, there's a lot of people that, have come from other countries and live here. It's just the same thing in all time, all space. We definitely have a galactic population. My information from both the above ground, because you guys can go, there's a secret space, Trump and all that announced it. So there's this fake, nice daytime secret space program, but and you can go. They have a really weird, creepy, kind of look like Star Wars and Star Trek. But we think disclosure is coming in a really, really big way. I predict the Star Wars bar, and you guys, within the next 5 years. So we're going to be introduced to way more than 30. It's totally individual. I have met angelic Dracos. Now they tend to have the characteristics of the Dracos. Dracos tend to be very cold, very unemotional, very sexual. There tend to be trends, but they're not all evil. They're not all gonna, kill you, drink your blood. Whatever Draco lore, they're not gonna fight you. Again, we're mixing, Draco body, Draco soul, being raised in a Draco planet or Draco sub-reality with the Dracos that are in the game. There's a big difference.
Very interesting. Are you like conscious during these abductions, or can you move or stuff or do anything about it, or are you kind of like stuck?
So that goes back to, again, my view of this reality, which is they've split the game into 2 game realms within a game. So we have what we call real dream day, because this is all a projected reality. Even our avatar is a projected reality, just in a really low frequency. So it feels dense, it feels solid, but it's all holographic, just like the Matrix tells us it is, just like Westworld tells it as it is. That's my belief. Anyway, so we have real dream day and then real dream night. So a lot of times when you guys are dreaming, I lucid dream, which is not really dreaming, it's remembering. So I work for a number of agencies. I have over 1,000 clones. And sometimes this is really cool because my daughters are also in the programs. So sometimes my daughters will have lucid dreams with each other, and they will match like detail to detail. A couple months ago, I had a lucid dream of an agency project where I was in a clone body, kind of like alias stuff, doing missions. And my daughter was there, but we are on opposing sides. So I work for the bad guys usually. She works for the good guys usually, because this is a polarity game. There's no polarity in the upper dimensions, but there is polarity within the game, black and white. But what we don't understand is it's just villains or roles. It's just like if you guys play a video game, some of the storylines you can pick to be, a hero, or you can pick a villain. So really, that's the way it is here. So I do have lucid dreams of being tortured. I do have lucid dreams sometimes, but not always. It depends what drugs. They give you such a crazy cocktail of their memory wiping drugs and like street drugs that you usually wake up. I usually know when I've been taken because I wake up and I feel drugged. Like you feel like sometimes it takes me to about 3 p.m. To come out of it and focus.
Now, you also do exorcisms of haunted houses with demons in them, and exorcisms of people, or spiritual deliverances, as it's also called. I heard you say you're at the point now where you don't actually even have to go into the people's house. You can do it remotely. Is there still some cases where you have to go to the house to exercise the house, or can it all be done remotely now?
Remembering who I am, and you said you had a past life soul regression, which is a start, but starting to remember the characters I've been throughout time and space and who I am in the future. And when you realize, one of the questions I like to ask people is, so if you believe your fire creation, if you know your fire creation, you have an eternal spirit, and you came from the all or void space where all is possible, anything can come out of it, anything, even things we've never heard of. And if you are that, if that is the substance of your soul, what can you not know and what can you not do? So when you realize you have this authority to create, because like I say, in the game and outside the game, anything that you believe is real. Now, I don't mean fake believe, like chanting, I believe I'm wealthy, you know, that BS. I mean, really believe. And you guys know the difference between really believing something and trying to believe something. But if you have remembered who you are and you actually have these past lives, and again, we have the technology, which is so beautiful, to bounce, you know, off what we think, which kind of, and other, you know, people, we work with other people that are highly skilled psychics and remote viewers as well, you know, anything. So not only do I believe that I can do that, so I can do that very successfully, but also I know that I'm known through all time and space because I know who I've been as characters in history, and I know who I've been even in some of my past lives outside the game before I got stuck in the game. So that gives you what? It gives you power and confidence and authority. And in this density, it's really easy to forget. But a lot of my clients, and this has been for years, 15, 20 years, I've had clients that draw and work on movies for Marvel. And one of them who drew for Spider-Man showed me the notes that he got from Marvel one time, and it has military stuff all over it. Well, why? Because every single TV series that has a hero of any kind of lore or superhero is based on fire creation beings. A lot of them are based on super soldiers, but not all. They're based on us. And, you know, we're going around with this poor self-esteem, and we're going around being depressed and anxious and wondering how we're going to pay our electric bill. And through all time and space, you know, we've been like Zeus and Napoleon and Cleopatra and these superheroes, Superman and Wonder Woman and Spider-Man. And we don't remember who we are. And that's how they wanted. Because if we're not going to use our superpowers and our abilities, then the agencies and the secret space program and the military, they're not going to let us go to waste. They're going to use us, and they do.
Has there been any of these exorcisms where you're dealing with really demonic type beings that really stands out to you as a scary situation?
Yeah. When I was more into the, I guess I want to say Catholic Church way of doing exorcisms. Yeah. So what a lot of people don't understand is they're like, can you exorcise my brother, mother, father, sister, whatever? And I'm like, sure, but it's going to be like a 2 or 3 week thing. We go to a neutral location. We don't do it in the house because, there's just a method to the madness. We usually hire bodyguards. Why? Because I didn't know my authority and power back then, I was using religion and religious figure authority and power, and they'll take advantage of that. Because here's the thing that we don't understand. We don't understand how this reality works, but what we don't understand is other beings, ETs, human discarnates, or what we call ghosts, people that have passed, dark force energies and entities, they do understand how this reality works. And they're like, you want to play exorcism, little girl? Let's go. And they have so much fun. It's almost like a prankster energy. They'll like put blood down the walls. They'll shake the hotel. They'll throw things across the room. And it can get really, really dangerous. And I know you guys have heard of, well, maybe you don't, but the big secret of exorcism in the Catholic Church is the high rate of injury and death that they do not publish of the exorcist, because again, they're not going in with understanding how this reality works, you know, so they're playing the exorcism game, which I no longer play. I negotiate, I talk to these beings, and if they don't play nice, I get rid of them. And it's not nice. I give them a couple chances, and then I just don't play nice. But now I carry that authority with my being, and they know who I am. And they don't tend to mess with me like they did when I was babe in the woods, didn't know what I was doing.
Have any of these human beings that have been possessed done anything criminal while under possession that they've had to deal with criminal charges over?
Wow. What we see, okay, it would shock you. I mean, I'm doing scans. I do hundreds of scans every month, and I'm not looking for I'm not looking for possession. But in the scan, it comes, you know, there's kind of markers that lead me to look closer at the person. And what we don't understand is and I'm going to use coded language just because I don't know how I don't know how freely I can speak here. So I'm going to kind of use some coded language. But because of what we just went through with the you know what, where we all had to do certain things and they offered to give us certain things to remedy the you know what, we're finding that the people that took the you know what had holes blown in their energy field, like a portal, just like a door that things could just easily get in. And the scary thing that we've discovered through testing hundreds and almost thousands of people now is that the human discarnates, it's not necessarily dark force energies or ETs or anything that's coming in. What we're finding is it's what people would call ghosts, what I call human discarnates, are coming in through that portal. But the interesting thing is it's not your dog or your cat, or which also have sentient fire creation spirits for another subject, or your baby you miscarried, or your grandma. That's not who's coming in to possess these people. It's the Jack the Rippers, it's the pedophiles, it's the murderers. So when they have the spirit in them, you know how everybody's talking about crazy things and people are blowing up and really angry and all these weird things are happening. We believe it's because they're being possessed by these historical dark figures that are seeing this easy opportunity because we've kind of shattered our energetic protection. So it's just really super interesting. We believe a lot of crimes, not just committed under possession, but there's so much mind control. A lot of people are owned by Monarch and they're MK Ultra slaves, and there's a lot of triggers. And when there's not just triggers from mystical, cell phone towers, which every cell phone tower that blinks white. Have you seen the cell phone towers sometimes blink red, some blink white? All the white cell phone towers are programming towers. So they're putting programming for the general population, but they can also target, because each of us has a specific frequency, and everybody that runs and has access to the matrix knows your frequency, and they can target you with specific programming. Not only that, but people in your life that do or do not have souls can also be under programming and can handle you and can say certain trigger words. I actually recently found out one of my trigger words, which is hilarious because it came up a lot in romantic relationships. So one of my MK Ultra trigger words is babe. And that's a very common word. And so they're using these common words, and then they put you in this state where then they can reprogram you or program you. And we're not even talking about the CERN. And I call it the CERNs because it's not just one CERN in Switzerland. There's like 50 CERNs all around the world, very many places, including the United States, that also have the capability, as Groundhog Day, the real meaning of the movie Groundhog Day, to stop time. They can stop time in your house and take you, just you, or they can take everybody in your house. They can stop time in your neighborhood, in your town, in your country. And there are pictures, and you might have even shown some of them on here, of people in their, night clothes or clothes, big groups of people going up to ships. And so we believe they freeze time, memory wipe, take entire populations. Some is cannon fodder. Some are taken for more sophisticated, projects like in the SSP.
Now, you are the author of numerous books. What are the subjects of the books that you're the author of? And I think you have a recent one that just came out recently.
Yeah. So a little skit. So I started out, I kind of broke into consciousness, way back when it was popular with kind of the secret type of stuff, which is still valid. So, I have some books about some secrets about how to create wealth and abundance. Probably need to take them off because I learned so much more now, than I did back then. But my latest one I wrote about kind of an alternative path to healing Lyme disease. Because again, what we're seeing, and I believe they're spraying it. So everybody's like, oh, ticks carry Lyme and deer carry Lyme. Well, how would, what do those things have in common? Like spraying gets it everywhere, deer, ticks, all that. But and I think there's another woman that actually knows a lot more about it than me that talks about that. But that's just my theory. Haven't really tested it. I don't really have any evidence for it. It's just my gut feeling that they're spraying a lot of these diseases. Even this recent thing, I was really sick for 3 weeks and I never get sick. And a lot of people have gotten this almost like, respiratory thing we get every winter. I just think they spray a lot of this stuff to keep us down so that they can keep, harvesting our energy and controlling us.
Now, for people that don't know about this MK Ultra, like me, I'm kind of new to all this. What is this? Because I don't understand what you're talking about regarding that.
Okay, so there is a corporation called Monarch. So a lot of people know that MK Ultra is associated with butterflies. Of course, it's associated with a lot more than just butterflies. One of the lovely things that the Monarch Corporation does is they take children using advanced technology from their homes, similar to the Secret Space program, but different. And they take them around the age of 3 to 5, usually the age of 3 to 4. And they take them to our beautiful Langley, Virginia place that we call the farm. Well, what people don't know about the farm that I know about the farm is that it's a black ops operation site. So they take these children from their homes. Their parents don't know they're gone. I'll tell you why in a minute. And they take these children and they put them through extreme torture. We're able to do MK Ultra scans and actually tell you what torture you went through, if they took you, where they took you, why they took you. And it's actually a compliment. It's like a twisted compliment. It means you're highly psychic and you have access to your abilities, because we're all, if you are a fire creation spirit, of course, you've lived forever. You can do anything. You're a magical being. You've probably been many magical beings throughout your life. But they take you, they torture you, they program you, they drop you back in your home. And that's really in preparation to then lease you out, because there's different corporations. You guys have heard of the Numbers Group. That's a corporation. Netflix, I think, has something about that. I forget what it's called. A series about that. Numbers has a lot to do with time travel, kind of like the Montauk stuff. But once you're owned by a corporation, like a lot of these children are, then you're leased out. Sometimes you're leased out at night. Sometimes you're leased out for clones to be made of you. One of the most horrifying things that I found out from my relatives and others is I found out that Life Touch Photography, I'm sure they love me talking about this, that takes the school and the church photographs, right? You know what I'm talking about? And isn't it really sweet how when you have kids, you guys, they give you those packages, so sweet. You let your kids' pictures be taken. They give you, packages you can look at and buy the pictures. Same with the church photography. Just such a wonderful company. Well, what Life Touch really is, it's owned by the corporations, and it's actually a clone catalog. So they look through it. They pick out your little blonde-haired, blue-eyed little girl and boy, or whatever their taste is, and they order a clone so that they can do all sorts of hideous things, and torture your child or your adult or you or, whoever they're picking out of these catalogs. So, what you don't know can hurt you, because you guys have a lot of clones and your consciousness is in every one of those clones. And there's a reverberal effect. So sometimes when you wake up at night, those of you that think you're being abducted by UFOs, that's why this is so muddy. And we're really trying to sort it out and teach people that it's not one thing. Sometimes it's your clone that's been killed or tortured. Or you might wake up and your arm is just numb and like aching. You're like, what the heck? I slept on it wrong. No, you didn't. You probably had a clone that had their arm blown off, or you were a super soldier and your arm was blown off. So we're all connected. Anybody, you and I are connected. That new age garbage that people say that we're all one. We are all one. But you're also, one with every being of you that has your consciousness transferred into it. So Monarch is just one corporation, and there's many. There's about 50 that we know of worldwide, just in the game. We're not even talking about the interplanetary corporations that there are that also mess around and own people and use people. But Monarch is one of the major ones that's a player here. And they take the most people, and they work with the 3-letter agencies, because what they want is they want your psychic abilities and your power and your being an old soul, and they want to use it for their missions in the game.
And as far as your remote viewing and that's seeing things in other places where you're not, I understand you have done some stuff with police forces here and there, but it was a little bit too traumatizing for you. But could you talk a little bit about some of that work?
Yeah, I was really young. So in the 80s, the big thing, and I was living outside of Chicago, was occult and cult crime. And I lived in the Fox River Valley, and so there was a lot of occult and cult crime, a lot of these little groups that would kill animals and, hate to say it, babies and all sorts of things, and play at, Satanism or real Satanists. And so I was used to help locate, because everything has a frequency and everything can be known in this life. And like I said, others. And I was just really naturally, psychic. So I helped them find mutilated things and locations of stashes of drugs and places where they were meeting that they suspected, but they weren't sure where they were. So it was more of a location thing. But the problem with being kind of like a bloodhound, a human bloodhound, is sometimes you see things and find things that you didn't want to see and find. So super traumatizing, didn't know how to handle. As a matter of fact, I got gang stalked and stalked for the first time, which I never put together till much, much later, because now I'm stalked regularly. Or let's say monitored, sounds better than stalked. But, you know, I had a big scene when I was doing that police work where I had a stalker that would call and tell me, like, and this is in a college dorm that was fairly secure, you know, what color underwear I'm wearing, what he wanted to do to me. And actually the FBI got involved and it was a big thing. But I actually think that stalking also played a piece in stopping me from doing that, because it was just too many weird stuff going on at once. Also, that abduction thing I told you about earlier also happened during that time. But right now I'm working on a cold case in Texas. I don't really want to go into it, but it's a murder of a young woman that they suspect her boyfriend did it, and the body was too decomposed due to heat. So they called it suicide, but it's suspected that it's not suicide. So right now I'm working on a cold case with some people to hopefully provide information that can lead to the arrest, because I also have the ability to be a medium. So sometimes I can talk to these people and they'll give me information that will lead to, so it's not always me. Sometimes it just makes me look good. You know, kind of like if you guys ever watched the show Medium on TV with, what's her name? I can't think of her name, just a blonde. But you know, they come to her and give her the information. So it's not always me remote viewing either. It's also my ability to talk to beings anywhere. And sometimes they come to me and give me information.
Someone puts on here, if they were psychic, they'd be a billionaire.
I say that all the time, though.
Yeah.
I say that statement to my daughter because we are so accurate. I say that all the time. I said we should be billionaires because we're just highly, highly, highly accurate. And it's not just us. We also try to teach other people how to activate and turn on your guys' psychic ability. Because I don't want to do this my whole life. I want to go to an island somewhere and drink margaritas the rest of my life. I don't want to keep doing your guys' readings and your scans. I want you guys to connect. And one of the cool thing about frequency is I worked with frequency so long, I don't have to use my technology because now I recognize different frequencies. So when my apps aren't working or my technology isn't working, you know, we are kind of the machine in a way. So it's just really interesting. So I teach people a lot. I want to empower you guys to understand who you are in the game so you can game the game and remember who you are. But I also want to teach who you are in all time and all space, because once you realize that, you start looking at life in a whole new way. Like I ask my students, if you knew 100%, like I just said, 100%, if someone could prove it to you that you were Zeus, that because all the Greek gods, all the Roman gods, a lot of them are the same beings, of course, they existed. They existed in the game. They were actual beings. But if you knew you were Zeus, would that change your life? And every single person, because of course there's no male or female soul. These are male and female avatars, but our soul, you know, has been in male and female bodies. And other, you know, some of us have been trees and all kinds of things. That's a whole other story. Animals, yada, yada. Beings that we don't even know exist. But of course it would change your life. Because what you can do is you can connect. That's still you. So every single life you've ever had since you came out of the all, and every single future life you ever will have, and if you're an eternal being, that's a lot, you can access the positive and you can go back and negate the negative. Because if you haven't done that, all those negative traits, because some people come in to this life as like what we call dark matter fire creation. What does that mean? It means within the game and without the game, for a long, long time, they haven't done their work and they've chosen to play the villain roles. You know, they've been the beaters, the abusers, the rapists, the thieves. But what's really cool is we see those people do their work, release their trauma, and they don't show up as dark matter anymore. They start to choose to play more of the hero role, which again, what we're so judgmental of, you know, this right and wrong, this black and white, it's not true. This is a game. Are you guys judgmental? When your guy in Call of Duty kills someone, are you like, oh, you horrible person, you just killed 1, 2, 3, 4, 20, 70, whatever? No, it's a game. You're not judging that. It's a game. Same here. It's just a game. You guys are going to go on, live other lives. You know, it's a game.
There's a fan watching that thinks he lives in the same area as you did or you do.
Oh, wow.
He wants to know if you know about Rainbow Road and White Cemetery.
I am not familiar with that. I would need more information.
Are you in Illinois?
No, I'm no. Oh, no. I am in North Carolina now.
Oh,
So no, not in that area. No, not anymore.
Do you know
I
who
might have
Rick,
been back then,
Ric
but that
Flair
was
is?
quite. Pardon?
Do you know who Ric Flair is? Just curious.
That sounds really familiar.
Okay.
I don't know why.
I love that painting behind you. What is that?
Oh, this is there you go. There you go. See, it's based on the Bible of Miriam singing. Do you see the Greek there? Well, I don't know. There's Hebrew letters. She's speaking, like kind of singing Hebrew magical gold letters upward. So yeah, Miriam from the Bible.
Somebody wants to know who is Biden shaking hands with that the rest of us can't see.
He's Biden. Okay, so Camp David, you guys know, right? Is cloning center. So whenever you hear presidents go to Camp David, I think Jimmy Carter had 32 clones when he was in office. So we've had clones forever. Absolute clone. He may be under some weird programming, and he may have some kind of cloaked being, that's his babysitter. I don't know. I've never looked at that, but he's definitely a clone with no spirit in him. So he's completely under programming. Although he could have a spirit in him, he doesn't. So that's probably why he acts so crazy. He's totally puppeteered. A lot of these clones, the president clones, actually have, if you could see the back of their neck way up under their hair, and he doesn't have a lot of hair, I don't know, they have implants that you could actually, if you could have access to his neck, it actually usually sticks out, as a metal piece.
And yeah, as far as remote,
Kenji update.
As far as remote viewing, I know the military does legitimately train people to do remote viewing. Yes. Some can do it, some can't. Do you think anyone can do it, or?
I can teach anybody. I can teach anyone the military way of remote viewing, and we've had classes. The coordinate way. You know what I'm talking about. I can teach anyone the coordinate way of remote viewing. However, the way I do it, I don't use coordinates. I just go there. So, or they come to me, or I see it like movies. I can't necessarily teach everyone how to do that, but hopefully, I can teach you other things so that you can activate if you have that ability. And there's so many types of abilities. One of my daughters can look at people's souls, and she draws these pictures to show what she sees, and it's just incredible. I don't do that. I can see, so I can merge with you and be you, and, feel what you feel and think what you think and see what you see and sort through your memories. That has a huge energetic cost to me. And thankfully I have the technology and I don't have to do that. That's how I used to do a lot of my psychic readings. I used to become you. And that's actually, I didn't know this. I didn't know that was a very sophisticated, all time, all space, high level ability. I thought everybody could do that. Everybody could just merge with trees, merge with buildings, merge with people, merge with animals. So, I'm glad I don't have to do that. But we all have, just like we all have different abilities, different tastes, we have different hobbies. It's the same in psychic abilities. So when you say, could you teach someone to be psychic? I can teach the people that have been really psychic and use those abilities through all time, all space, and in the game easier than I could take somebody who's never even really been interested in it till this life. So everyone's an individual.
So what do you do now besides being an author? You help people that need cleansings and stuff like that? Or do you also do psychic work?
That's what I don't do. I actually have a book about NPCs, clones, and whatever that's written, and I have to get published. So that's actually what I need to be doing that I'm not doing, because there's only one of me, and it's nice to have the books for you guys, because then you kind of have the cliff notes, and makes for a better interview than me wandering all around. But what I spend my days doing is I teach classes. I have monthly groups, Ultimate Awakening, Ultimate Elite, where we talk about the secret space. We talk about doing your work. We talk about handlers. We talk about NPCs. We talk about clones. We talk about ghosts. We talk about possession, all this woo-woo weird stuff that we're talking about here. We talk about in my monthly groups. I also do a lot of programming for the technology. I work for a medical technology company too, so I do a lot for them. A lot of scans, a lot of secret space scans, a lot of what we call a full scan, which means we're going to go mental, spiritual, physical, spiritual, anything you want to know. I don't mix. We do MK Ultra scans, like I said, where we tell you if you're programmed, what corporations own you. Some of us are owned by multiple corporations, not just Monarch. And some of this information, it's really interesting. We don't think we remember, But when somebody says things to you, you're like, oh, that makes sense. And I look at it as this giant 5,000 piece puzzle. I think I'm only like 100 pieces in, to be honest. We're unraveling more and more every day. So like I said, we do a lot of scans. I do live events. We just got back from Sedona, 4 days in the desert, where we had 2 shaman, and we went through beautiful ceremony. No, I think we had 3 shaman, and from the Navajo tribe and the Apache tribe. It was just beautiful time, coming together with conscious people. And really, I'm really about proof. I'm really about pictures. I'm really about your experience, because if whatever we believe is real for us, we have these micro realities that we create, and then we contribute better to the macro reality. But I really, one of the women that came, her, psychic abilities were awakened just by being in the presence, of the group energy and some of the activities that we did. So I'm really about personal empowerment and teaching you guys how to see. One of the things I can do is I can take anyone and get them to see the 4th dimension. Anyone. I can take a babe in the woods. As a matter of fact, the Ghost Hunter guys have begged to come. They actually begged to come on my retreat, and they begged to come to my house. And I'm like, no, because that's really distracting, of course, to have them there and cameras and stuff. But I have such an active location. I live in a habitation site where portals open and close. You can see the lights open and close. I have a picture of little people that approached me when I first moved in here. I have Sasquatch, I have Dogman, I have the Fae. I can teach anyone how to take pictures of the 4th dimension and of these beings. And that's actually a really great first step to opening your mind to, space beings, because you're already starting to open your minds to supposedly beings that don't exist.
Now, there's a question on here from a fan that wants to know the 20 and back story.
Oh, 20, 40, 60, 80 and back. So it's really interesting, guys. When I was in elementary school, I just felt crazy. Like, I was scared in elementary school because I was so adult. I had such an adult mind. I was terrified somebody was going to find out and be like, I don't know why. I thought they were going to put me in a mental institution. So I always was so troubled by why I had this adult mind. And when I found out about 20, 40, 60, 80 and back from another remote viewer, I didn't think it was me. I didn't think that had happened to me, but I found out later and I've had a lot of memories now. Mars is very associated with the 20, 40, 60, 80 and back programs. And I have a huge history with Mars. I'm still on Mars. I have a whole family on Mars. A lot of you guys do too. And again, we're able to tell you this with the technology. I know you guys have heard a lot of people talk about that, but it was like deliverance. You talk about deliverance. I was delivered when I found out that they were taking me, at 3 and 5 and 11. And they, I was living these other lives, and then they were returning me. And that creates a lot. I mean, think about that. We don't retain our memory in our brain. They lie to us about that. We retain our memory in our energy field. They just have technology that blocks us from accessing the memory in our energy field. It's a soul memory. It's not a brain memory. That's why I said I would remember if I died, because it's not in my brain. So my brain can turn off, but I'm still going to remember this conversation. I'm still going to remember every single thing, unless they've memory wiped me and it's stuck. Sometimes there's bleed through and their stuff doesn't always work. So, when I tell 20, 40, 60, 80 and back memories, it really awakens. There are other people that struggled and felt like, me, they were so bored. They just could barely live normal life as a child. And that's not really what you hear from the general population. So that's always the first sign of somebody that's 20, 40, 60, 80 and back. Someone that was very bored, someone that had an adult mind. We're going to look and see if you have that frequency, if you have that memory in your field.
And before we go, is there anything you would like to plug as far as where people can get your books? Your website is obviously on the screen, and how people can contact you. You have your own YouTube channel as well.
I do, and I need to be better about it. I'm not as good as you are. You're awesome. I'm very disciplined, and I love it. I need to be better. But yeah, so I've been around a while. You can type me in. I'm all over social media. I have my own YouTube channel, Secret to Everything. I have an Etsy store, but I think it's attached to Secret to Everything. And we have a contact form on the website. So if you guys want to reach out, ask a question, I'll be happy to answer what I can or connect you with what I think might be helpful, for you.
Very good. And can you get psychic readings on random stuff, or do you have to know well about the situation before you get a reading?
I'm what I call very specific psychic, because the way my psychic abilities work, which are probably tied to the way my remote viewings work, like if you just say, tell me something about me, all of a sudden I'm going to see like 1,000 movie screens. So so I'll look at one and I'll be like, blah, 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 blah. And then people get really ticked because that's not the one they wanted to know about. So I say, ask me a specific question, and then I'll try to find that, you know what I'm saying, that answer. That's that's how I work with very specific questions. People will be like, but I mean, kind of vague. People say, is my husband cheating on me? Yes, I can answer that. I mean, that's kind of a vague question, but I can also get into, which people don't always like. Sometimes I get names. I've been called into court cases, so I don't do a lot of the cheating things anymore because they try to call me in. They're like, she told me the girl's name. And they're like, how did you know her name? What am I supposed to say to a judge when he says, how did you know her name? I plucked it out of the all-time, all space where all information is available to all of us. That doesn't fly in court. So I try to stay away from anything other than if I'm consciously working with law enforcement. But I can be very, very, very specific. I can look at timelines. I can tell you if you're on your optimal timeline. I can tell you if you're off your timeline. I can tell you if you have men or women standing in your timeline that are coming, or money or jobs or places. I can tell you the best frequency place for you to live if you're thinking about moving. I can help you sell your house. I mean, we do a lot of stuff.
Now, I heard you had at least one husband before. I don't know what your situation is, but does that intimidate men that date you? Because I would be a little bit intimidated with someone that could actually read into me going out on dates and being around.
I decided to stay off the dating sites because people tend to find out who I am. And then they watch my videos and they say, I had a guy actually 2 weeks ago call me up and he said, you are effing crazy. He goes, I meditate. I'm into the consciousness movement, but he goes, you believe this reality is like a game. He goes, I just can't buy into this stuff. He goes, you are crazy. He said, I'm sorry, we just can't see each other. So I'm like, thanks for calling me up and telling me that. I really appreciate that. So yeah, there's an intimidation factor, but also I believe that, probably there have been some men that are really cool. They don't care. And they actually get really interested in what I do. My last boyfriend actually wanted me to do past life, because I can do past life. Sorry, I just dropped something. Past life regression, as well. And I don't do a lot of those because I don't have time, but I've taught other people how to do them. We have our own method because I have some problems with the standard method because of the spirits they let in and stuff, because they jump people, and that's a whole nother conversation. But yeah, so some men are intimidated. Some men aren't. If you have nothing to hide, you don't have to be intimidated because it's pretty cool. I'm pretty fun. I'm pretty interesting. Yeah. It's pretty fun to go to paranormal places. I know a lot of famous people. I'm pretty fun. So, you can see it good or bad, just depends.
Yeah, not even nothing to hide, but just I don't know. I would find it weird, but
thanks for that. I'm sure
it's interesting.
Thank you for that.
It would be the same being around aliens, because aliens can supposedly read you telepathically.
They can.
So
yeah.
Be a little strange, but thanks for this talk. It's been interesting for sure. A lot of subjects I wasn't aware of, and always like to know more about different stuff in that domain. And I'll let you close this off with whatever you want to tell the viewers.
Oh, just, come to my website, check it out. We have a lot of free classes. We have a lot of free stuff. I forgot to mention that. So just kind of come and feel the energy. If it resonates, happy to talk to you, happy to be of service to you. And I want to offer to you, if you want me to do a scan on you, either if you want to have me back, I'll do it live, cold, or you can contact me privately and I'll offer you a scan just so you can kind of see what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that might be interesting. Sure. I'm sure the viewers would like that. I appreciate it. So everyone, check out her website, and I'll let you say the website to close it off, just so they know. If they can't
awesome. Well, thank you so much for listening to my ramblings. Thank you for having me and being open-minded. I really appreciate it. secrettoeverything.com, Kimberly McGeorge. Thank you so much.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, and click the subscribe button to not miss any of